whatever this boss is, it's something unnatural, something otherworldly, maybe something disturbing. Hey music friends, this is Davi Vasc. I'm a music composer for games and this is long overdue. Today we're gonna for the first time listen to and talk about Genshin Impact music, and it's gonna be Raiden Shogun battle theme. I've heard excellent things about Genshin Impact music. I've never played the game, I've never listened to the music before, so this is gonna be completely new. I'm excited. Let's go! Sounds to me like a boss theme so far. Amazing orchestra. Wow, this sounds huge. Wires. Amazing melody. Oh wow. Okay. We already knew this was a battle theme, right? Because the name of the track is Raiden Shogun battle theme. Seems pretty clear to me now that it's a boss theme. It definitely sounds like it. Sounds huge. The orchestra sounds big and impactful. I gotta say, this being my first experience with Genshin Impact music, I'm a little bit surprised. This sounds more like that kind of dark, intense orchestral Souls music, like Dark Souls, Bloodborne kind of music than I expected. By the look of this game, I expected something a little bit more anime-like, and there are definitely, as far as I know, this is a Chinese developer, right? So there are definitely some Chinese Eastern influences here. I heard what sounds like maybe a shakuhachi, which is a Japanese flute, somewhere in here. Here. Amazing. Very dramatic. That's impressive. I love that. And the choir, man. Okay. Shakuhachi again, Japanese flute. The pianos on this. This is gonna explode. It's gonna build up into. Oh, next phase? Okay, next phase. Okay, so before the next phase begins, I don't know if this is actually how it happens in the game. Like if while you're playing the game, if it actually fades out into silence and then the next phase starts, like we heard here. If it does happen like that in the game, I mean, I can totally relate to that as a game composer, because one of the hardest parts of making a multi-phase boss theme like this is there's two things. There's the loop point, which, as the name suggests, is the point in the track, because you don't know how much time the player is gonna spend fighting that specific phase of the boss, so the track has to loop. And of course, loop points are always tricky. You have to make it in a way that it's not distracting. The player can't really tell, oh, the track is looping. It has to be seamless. And also the second difficult part of making a multi-phase boss battle theme like this is the transition point. Is the transition point where the song transitions from phase 1 to phase 2, for example. It also has to be seamless and very smooth, unless you do like they did here. It makes things so much easier. You just fade to silence and then start the next phase. This makes things so much easier. You don't have to transition the tracks smoothly from one to the other. But of course, if you just fade into silence in the middle of combat, it sounds kind of weird. It sounds kind of distracting. So in order for this to work, there has to be some kind of cutscene, or some kind of fade out appropriate thing going on in the screen. So maybe you reach a point in the phase in the boss battle where there may be a cutscene or some dialogue between the characters. Then the song fades to silence, and then it goes back to gameplay, and the next phase comes in. That's what I assume is happening here. Let me just go back here before we go to the second phase. There was one part here that sounded particularly powerful to me. This. Sometimes you listen to music and there's just one tiny part that feels particularly powerful. It hits you in a particular way. This part feels very adventurous to me. It's just a simple happy chord into a sad chord. This happy chord here is what we call a double function chord. So it's very nuanced and is very good at expressing nuanced emotions. So even though I'm calling it here, here in the channel we call this happy chord. Even though this is a happy chord, this is a very nuanced happy chord. It makes this sound more adventurous, heroic, but in a dramatic kind of way. Especially since it goes into the sad chord. There's a drama, there's some struggle in this. I love it. Sounds very powerful. Okay, second phase. Okay. Not at all like the first phase. Shamisen. This is a shamisen. I love this. Oh, they changed the key. This sounds so unique. And they're holding one single chord. Oh god, this sounds like a... Okay, hold up. This sounds extremely unique, very different from the first phase. From what I can tell, Genshin Impact seems to be, a typical fantasy game with, swords and armor and monsters and magic, that kind of stuff. In a medieval fantasy kind of setting like this, anything that any kind of music that sounds like it does not belong in that setting is very good at giving you a sensation of something alien, something otherworldly, something unnatural. That's my guess for this part here, because it sounds very electronic, very synthy. So my guess is that whatever happened here in second phase... Oh, now that I'm looking at it, this that we're listening to right now is actually the first phase. What we heard before was actually, according to the video that I'm watching here, was called the execution. So maybe it was a cutscene. So now we're actually listening to phase 1. Yeah, so as I was saying, the song sounds like it doesn't fit on a medieval kind of setting. So my guess is that whatever this boss is, it's something unnatural, something otherworldly, maybe something disturbing in comparison to what you're used to usually fighting in the game. That's my guess anyway, because unless the game has this kind of music frequently, this sounds like something that does not belong in a medieval kind of fantasy setting. But also, the shamisen. Do you guys know what a shamisen is? It's this. You probably have seen that Eastern kind of guitar instrument. It's used a lot in Japanese music and Chinese music. The blend between such a traditional ancient instrument with electronic synthy music, it's so unique. And then this is what I want to talk about. Listen to this. Sounds kind of disturbing, but did you pay attention to the shamisen? It's like, this is so cool. It's like they put some kind of distortion, guitar distortion effect on the shamisen. This is so cool because the shamisen already kind of looks like a Japanese guitar. So they made the shamisen kind of metal. There's a slight distortion, like a guitar distortion effect on the shamisen here. This exacerbates the feeling of something unnatural and kind of evil, kind of disturbing that I'm getting from this. And what is cool about this, also, I forgot to say, they, in comparison to the previous part of the track, which was the execution. Remember, this is phase 1. We previously heard the execution. In comparison to the execution, they raised the key a little bit. So the execution was in the key of A minor. This one is in the key of B minor, which is a little bit higher. So they are clearly trying to raise the stakes, increase the intensity in between the two phases. So when we go into the first phase, he raises the key a little bit, so it causes like an effect of shock. Even if you don't notice consciously, your brain notices it. Your brain notices that everything in the track is a little bit more high-pitched. And by the way, if you don't know what raising the key means, there's more to it than that, of course, but basically speaking, you can say it basically means that everything in the track, every single instrument, became a little bit more high-pitched. And this creates an infusion of tension and energy. I think this is gonna start looping soon. Yeah, this is what I was talking about, guys. Remember when I talked about looping point? This is the exact looping point here. And you notice I was talking about how sometimes it's very tricky to make the track loop seamlessly. Look here how he kind of, like, there's a lot of stuff going on in the track, then suddenly he calms down a little bit and there's not a lot going on. He holds that for a little while and then bam, loop point. That's for varying reasons. It's much easier to make the looping point very seamless and smooth if there's not a lot of stuff going on in the track at that particular point. So that's why, check this out. You can notice him, quieting things down a little bit and removing a bunch of instruments before the loop point. Check this out. It's gonna calm down. Here it comes. Now, see? Calms down. There's not a lot going on. Then, loop point. Okay, so now it's looping. So, let's go to the second phase. I wonder if it's gonna stay like in this menacing, disturbing kind of synthy vibe like this, or if it's gonna explode into something super loud and powerful. Oh, let me see the transition point between phase 1 and phase 2 though. Let me see. Oh, it's gonna fade out. Yeah, it fades out. It's just like the previous transition, remember? Like I said, it's much easier to do it like this because you don't need to make a transition, a seamless transition from one phase to the other. And it's not like I'm saying like, oh, this composer is not good enough to make a seamless transition. It's just taking the easy way out and fading out. It's not like that at all. Sometimes the most appropriate thing to do is to fade out, especially if my guess is right. Remember the guess that I made at the beginning of the video. If there's like a cutscene, maybe some dialogue between the characters, in between the phases, then fading out is the most appropriate thing to do. But anyway, let's listen to phase 2. I wonder how intense this will be. Oh! Wow, super intense, super loud. Still synthy though, I was about to say. This is the shakuhachi, the Japanese flute. Amazing harmony. So cool. And the shamisen again. I wonder. This is so cool. You know, the shamisen, you know, the Eastern Japanese guitar and the Japanese flute, the shakuhachi, they're so prominent in this song that I'm starting to wonder. I wonder if they mean anything, because it's common even like in movies or operas and certainly in games to attribute certain meanings to instruments. So maybe a certain character in the game is symbolized by the flute, and every time there is something to do with that character, the flute plays, and that creates a nice mental connection between the two. Like I said, the two instruments, the shakuhachi and the shamisen, are very prominent here. I wonder if they mean anything here, because they almost sound like characters in this song. They sound like main characters on the stage of this story that we're listening to right now. Man, the combo of electronic beat like this with orchestra and the Eastern instruments still sounds super menacing though. Oh, interesting. Remember when I said that they, from the execution phase to the first phase, they raised the key a little bit. Everything in the track got a little bit more high-pitched. Now, in the second phase, instead of raising the key even higher to increase the tension, they returned to the original key from the execution part. So they lowered the key this time. I wonder what that means. Maybe this phase here is not really about being super tense and afraid like the previous phase was. Maybe this phase is more about, you know, the heroism of it. It's the last phase, I assume. So probably the phase where you will defeat the boss. So, you know, a little bit more of heroism and adventure might be appropriate here. Maybe that's why they, instead of raising the tension even further, they lowered the key to the original key of the execution part. Man, strings together with the shakuhachi, amazing. Is that a guitar? Amazing, I think this is an electric guitar. Man, I love that combo. And super electronic still. A lot of guitars now. Oh, it's building up. Wow. Okay, so before we move on, something that's very interesting, and I always find it interesting in Japanese/Chinese inspired music, is that they oftentimes use Western inspired harmony. So even though we have some Chinese and Japanese instruments and some Eastern phrasing here and there, the harmony remains largely Western. And you see that a lot when composers are composing music from other parts of the world. They will still rely on Western harmony. And that to me is just a testament of how effective Western harmony is. And that's not a demeaning comment on music from other parts of the world. It's just that if you've studied music from many parts of the world, you know that Western harmony is just super sophisticated and very good at expressing very nuanced emotions. Sounds so classical. Especially these two last chords here. It has that classical music, almost kind of like a cartoony classical music feel, right? Right? It has that classical music sound. So we just have a complete blend of a bunch of stuff here. There's electronic music, classical European music, Japanese, Chinese instruments. This is very, very unique and super, super hype. Sounds so exciting. I love this beat. And the guitars as well. Another blending element. Oh God. This has to be the end. What's going on? Oh. Ending with the piano, such class. Hey, I have a bunch of other videos where I talk about video game music from the perspective of a video game composer, and this channel is all about sharing the music from the games that we love with each other anyway, so why not take the opportunity to share video game music further? So remember, whenever you're ready to spread your wings and go on a music journey again, I'll see you there.